here to discuss all things NRL and anything sports related. Please give a warm Aussie g'day to the footy fanatic and America's own Corey Jackson in Outside the Sheds.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to Outside the Sheds. Season 2025, the kickoff show. What can you say? What can you say, Shedheads? It was an event that all of us will remember. It's an event where I can say the NRL took it again to the next level. It was special. And I think watching it at home just isn't enough. You've got to find your way to Vegas. If rugby league is in your blood, you've got to be in that crowd. You've got to be in those stands. You've got to experience Fremont Street. You've got to experience being up close and personal with your favorite rugby league players. It is something that I can't put into words. It's my second year. You know this, Shedheads. We've been doing this for a while now. It's my second year being in Vegas, and the NRL, the Super League, the women's international game took it to another level. Something that I didn't think was possible almost, but it's been done. Peter V'landys has steered this ship in a way that is only going straight up, and he continues to make that happen. And again, I think all of us are blown away who especially have been there 2 years in a row to see the buzz, the vibe that is happening in that city. Because unlike the first year where people were like, yeah, here rugby's in town, people knew about it in Vegas this time. And so that was pretty special, being around a city that actually knows that this is going down. You guys are here, not just Aussies, but Kiwis, and Brits, and it had a buzz from the beginning. But before we go into the breakdown of Viva Las Vegas, let's go into these matches. And like a lot of us know, it is considered round one, part A, and that is what it was. But the day kicked off, Wigan 48, Warrington 24, Bevan French, Jai Field, Adam Kieran's boot powered the Wigan Warriors over the Warrington Wolves. Now, I don't know if any of this is a hangover that Sammy Burgess barely got into the country, as was told on NRL 360. But I think we also just saw the strike of Warrington not being anywhere close to what Wigan is. And having elite players on that Wigan team, from Bevan French, Jai Field, like I said, Adam Kieran, who played for the Chooks and the Waz. But Wigan is going to be there in the end. That's what Wigan does. They're going to be a team that's going to be playing for this. I will say this, and I'm going to give myself away right now. I know that we're going to get two Super League teams back here again next year, and it just kind of bums me out because I don't know if they're going to do it from the same approach that the NRL is, that it's going to be new teams. Because I would love to be in the crowd to watch Wigan and St. Helens go toe-to-toe in front of that type of a crowd. It would be brilliant from the beginning, and it'd be something that would blow me away, that I could just be there to say that I saw those two superpowers come to blows right there in Vegas. Next matchup, Raiders 30, Warriors 8. Ricky's Baby Greens putting on a display, looking impressive right out of the gate. And I guess that's what happens when you, slight Ricky, and you make Sticky think that you don't think his team deserves to be there, or you don't think his team deserves to be on the same stage. He's going to have him ready. And even with some baseball bats, rubber baseball bats, blow-up baseball bats, whatever you want to say, even with that little bit of a distraction that happened midweek, the Raiders were ready. And the Raiders put on a heck of a display. They made their fans, who were pretty much there in good numbers, the Canberra fan base was there in good numbers, proud of what they saw on the pitch. Even the drummer was there. The Viking drummer was there. He had the Wigan fans at halftime of the first match losing their minds in the tunnels. It was insane. But as much as you can talk up the Raiders, you have to really kind of go, what the heck is going on with the Waz? Because after a pretty good preseason, I think a lot of people were expecting to see that big forward pack be too much. And that is your Shedadamus as well. I thought the forward pack was going to be too much for the Raiders to handle, but it's not the case. I don't know, but I will say this, and I know that Andrew Webster feels that he has to be loyal to Chance Nickel-Klokstad, but I think that the Warriors are really losing something not having RTS, which you've heard me say last year numerous amounts of times. RTS needs to be in that number 1 jersey because he's going to have to help fire up those halves. And no matter if it's Luke, no matter if it's, the Scorpion King himself, or Tay-Marie Martin, something is going to have to propel them forward. Myself, I was kind of shocked that Tay-Marie Martin was not in the 7. But again, this is going to be a problem if he does not get the right combinations correct. And it could be a long season, which I don't think it will be. But I just think that RTS has to be back there for the Waz to go with the strike that they need to have to really take on the competition. That's my feeling on it. And I'm going to stick by that because I just know what type of athlete that is having RTS back in the 1. And I also know what a team looks like when you're wasting a player with that type of pedigree and that type of talent. But we'll have to see. But that was a bad hit out, especially with the amount of fans that the Waz brought across from New Zealand and around the world. Next up, Jillaroos 90, England 4. Wow. The Jillaroos really truthfully showed from the beginning why they're the number 1 team in the world. And it kind of reminded me of running into the Jillaroos, this kind of squad, these girls now that are on the team, these young ladies are on the team right now, being in the airport with them flying to Auckland in 2017 for the Auckland Nines. I was like, whoa, because these young ladies were top-notch athletes. They looked like a bunch of runners, right? Strong legs, long, lean. And I was like, I don't know if the Kiwis know what is getting ready to step off the plane. And they ended up finding out because since that match, the Jillaroos really have not looked backwards. And they definitely didn't look backwards on Saturday night. They probably could have put 100 up if they really, really tried. And I felt bad. It wasn't like the English girls weren't out there trying to play their best. It was just a different breed of athlete. It really was. And this is even with, them not playing certain players a full 90 minutes. But again, Jillaroos, and I don't know if you're going to see the Jillaroos back again because I think the only team that can actually push them is the Kiwis now. But the ladies, they're out of season playing the games when this starts. And I think that's why you're starting to hear rumblings that they're going to go down to just 3 games next year. But anyway, last game, Panthers 28, Sharks 22. Sharkies score the first try of the game, and then the reigning premiers do what the reigning premiers do. They tie a game up, then they pull you into deep water a little bit, get you in the tackle, get you in the wrestle, and next thing you know, they're up 12-10 at half. And then the class of Cleary, the class of Isaiah, it's too much for a lot of teams. And the crazy part about all of this is it wasn't like the Sharks could not be proud of the footy they played. The problem is for the Sharks, Nico Hines didn't fire in the second half. And he kind of let it to Braden Trindle to kind of lead the team around. And no matter how great of a player, Trindle is and is capable of being, Nico Hines is an elite athlete. Nico Hines is bulked up for the wears and tears of the rugby league season. He even admits that he put on a few stone, he put on a few pounds to give his body a chance to run and to take some of the physical abuse and pounding he's going to take because he wants to run the ball more. But he's going to have to play elite for Cronulla to get where Cronulla really wants to be at. And that's just how it is. And that kind of was shown. They pushed Penrith right to the end again. But Penrith does what Penrith always does. They make key tackles and they hold people out and hold on and do what they do to win games. And they did it again on Saturday night with that performance that they did. It was lights out. It was, again, awesome for a lot of people who haven't seen Penrith play live before, just to see what that team is capable of doing. You're talking Jack Cole being in the halves with Cleary now, and Jack played a really sound match for his first time on the big stage like that. And not just the big stage, but the biggest of stages. So, again, Penrith is a champ until the champ gets dethroned, and they showed it again. Now, Shedheads, we're going to go a little Viva Las Vegas, a little behind the scenes. I want you to experience what your Shedadamus experienced. I want you to feel what your Shedadamus felt. And I'm just going to give you a breakdown of what the last week was for me in Vegas. And I want you to feel it because Vegas, again, and the NRL pull out all the stops to put on the performance and the spectacle that they did for the amount of time to keep people just engaged day in and day out. Now, I landed on Tuesday night with Mrs. Shedadamus. We got in at 8, and I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but we pretty much just went up to our room. I'm not a gambler. I know it's hard to believe because of all the great picks I give you guys week in and week out, but I'm not a gambler. And so there's not a call for me to go hit the casinos. Might have hurt me with the NRL when I told them that, but I'm just not a gambler. So we got back in, got recharged, and, just got ourselves prepared for the next day. Wednesday, woke up pretty early. FanFest started at 11 o'clock down in the hotel. We were actually staying at Resorts World where some of the teams were staying. But something told me before going to work out to go down to FanFest. And I'm lucky I did, because who would you guess that the Shedadamus ran into right off the bat? Andrew Abdow and the Godfather himself, Peter V'landys. And I got to talk to both of them. Got to talk to them, and they were interested about, American being in tune with the game, and got some pictures with them, and really, like I said, just got to throw a little dice with the guys. Got the little talk, chop it up a little bit. And that was nice. Then we took a picture with the trophies. And by that point, there was more people starting to kind of come to FanFest and to see what was going on. And that was really, really cool. But then, lo and behold, who comes walking in but Hannah Hollis and some of the Fox crew. And I got interviewed by Hannah Hollis on the air, and she talked to me about my podcast a little bit and where I was from, and that was a real good kick and bump to the week. But it was nice to get that out there and get to talk and to see what it was like actually down there. Now, the problem for your Shedadamus was he did not bring any type of gear back from this week because he kept saying, I'll get it tomorrow. I'll get it tomorrow. I'll get it tomorrow. I'll get it tomorrow. Well, guess who didn't get anything for tomorrow and who came back to his home base without any type of swag from the event? But your Shedadamus. But we're not going to go into that in detail because it's going to bring me down. But there was a real buzz in the air. And then we went downtown. We got our workout in, went back to the room, and then we went and down to the old Fremont Street, old Vegas, baby, old Vegas, and got to watch the live recordings of NRL 360. Got to see Buzz Rothfield in the flesh, and then the Matty John show. Got to meet some really cool people down there, but that was really pretty much what Wednesday was. And it's probably good that's all that Wednesday was, because FanFest on Fremont Street was the next day. Now, before we get to that, Thursday we kick it off by going to the NRL Luncheon, hosted by Andrew Voss. I'm a big Vossy guy. I think that Andrew Voss is nonstop energy. He just feels alive. You feel the buzz off him whenever he talks rugby league, when he does the fan. but Vossi hosted it, and it was really a good event because there was actually representation from all the teams. Some coaches were there, but in the crowd were some incredible greats of the game. I got to talk to Mal Menenga. Jarrett Croker was there, who I was always a big fan of when he played for the Raiders. Wayne Pierce, getting to see a Tigers legend like that was great. Braden Trindle, Ricky Stewart, Jamal Fogarty. There was just a buzz in that building. There was a buzz in that place. And I will say this, Shedheads, right off the bat, I can see why the Canberra Raider fans are so in tune with their team, because I think Ricky Stewart comes off really sometimes a little abrasive sometimes. He kind of has that air about him when you see him on TV that you would think, this guy is going to be prickly when you meet him. But I will say Ricky Stewart was one of the coolest guys that I met. He was engaged when he heard that I was from America. Jamal Fogarty was as well. But all of the people that I met from the Raiders were so genuine and so interested in myself and what I was doing, and all wanted me to reach out to them. And if I was ever in Canberra, I'd definitely reach out to them. It was it really made you feel special just talking to those guys. But besides that, it was a great event. I did not win anything. That's okay. But it was really cool. But I got to tell you, one of the highlights for me was leaving the actual luncheon and running into Tiger and Wigan great Pat Richards. And me picking him out and seeing him blew him away. That, again, here's a guy in an American accent that knew who he was, and I let him know by every means that he probably got the greatest flip try in the history of the NRL in the 2005 Grand Final, when Benji gave the no-looker to him and Pat put it down, if you know what I mean. But I've always been a fan of Pat Richards. And one of the coolest things that happened was when we came down the escalator, I kind of was looking, and Pat stopped me and wanted me to do a video on his phone back to his kids in Australia, just to let them know that how great of a player their dad was. And that was an honor for me, because I really went all out telling his kids on this message how great their dad was. And then I saw Pat, actually, to kind of jump ahead, I saw him coming in with the Wigan boys, and he actually pointed at me when he saw me in the tunnel coming through. But seeing Pat Richards was really cool. And Pat looks like he can still play. He's in tip-top form and shape by every means. And probably the Tigers could use that boot, but that's something else. But that was a real highlight for me was to see Pat Richards and actually to talk to him as well. So we got back to the room really quick, changed, got back down, got on the buses and went down to FanFest. And again, the NRL, top-notch, does it the best. FanFest had a red carpet this year that all the teams came down on as they came onto the stage, where they got interviewed. But again, it was so cool because it gave the normal fan a chance to be close to a lot of these players. They got to give high fives as they went through this red carpet before they got up on stage. And I was just sitting there with Mr. Shedadamus going, they've done it again. They've done it again. So that happened. Again, full throat, listening to the English fans singing songs about each other was cool. But then after the FanFest part was over, went over to a bar that was right next to the stage and got to meet the CEO for the Panthers and got to meet Greg Alexander, Brandy, which was really, really cool, especially for as many hours as I spent watching Fox League on television. And then the capper of the night, getting to buy Gordon Tallis another schooner, since I'm in debt with him big time, because after the Matty Johns showing that Mr. Shedadamus and I was on last April, we went to the bar with Gordy, which I told you about, and I was 9 in the hole to him. So getting to buy one back to try to catch up was a privilege of mine, and it was great to be able to do that and to see Gordy again. But wow, Thursday, if you come next year to Vegas to come see the NRL, come see the Super League teams, you've got to come down to FanFest in Old Fremont Street, because it is done top notch, and I can't even think what the NRL is going to do to lift it to the next level next year. Now, Friday pretty much was a recharge day, I guess you can say, but ended up going with my agent to the Tilted Kilt. My agent, he got me out with Mrs. Shedadamus, and we got to spend some time. Adrian introduced me to quite a bit of the Shark faithful. He is a huge Cronulla supporter, but I got to meet the Sharks podcast guys led by Sam. It was really nice meeting those guys. We might do something together here in the future. Got to meet BK, who's a huge supporter that actually lives up in Beerwah. Yes, Shedheads, Beerwah, where the Crocodile Hunters zoo is at, which I've been to. Great zoo, but if you don't like crocodiles, I do not suggest you go there. That's just me. But we really had a great time hanging out with the Shark supporters. They really had some good things going on there at the Tilted Kilt, and that was pretty much it. We called it early. We got back to the room because we knew that it was going to be 10 to 11, 12 hours of straight rugby league on Saturday going to the Death Star. And that's where we're going to start Saturday, Allegiant Stadium. Gus Gould actually said Allegiant Stadium is almost worth you just coming across to Vegas for, because it is a special stadium. It's kind of sad that the Raiders play there because they don't get a lot of wins at this current juncture in Allegiant Stadium. But the setup of it is incredible. Bumped into my agent Adrian as I'm walking towards the stadium with Mrs. Shedadamus, but I already saw, don't forget last year, I told you, there was a gigantic wind warning where they pushed us into the stadium as fast as they possibly could. They actually let people come in 30 minutes earlier last year because of the gale force winds and how dangerous it was out there to get into it. It was cold. It was not engaging weather outside the stadium last year. Couldn't be farther from the case this year. A lot of fans were outside. They did not have a fan fest experience like they were going to have last year. I think they didn't want to take that chance of bad weather because it's a real gamble. But getting in the stadium, again, was lifted to another level. The Death Star, as they call Allegiant Stadium, Mrs. Shedadamus and I had incredible seats. We were second row, 50-yard line, but we were in one of the clubs, which means that we got all you can eat, all you could drink for 10 straight hours. And I've got to tell you, I'm so happy that I'm not an alcoholic because I'd probably be 10 feet underground right now because I saw some boys around me. I don't know how they were standing after the amount of drinks that they took in. We even had, the first two rows, we even had our own personal server who did all the walking for us to bring our food and drinks back up to our seats. And that was beyond top-notch and cool. But let's go to a couple of highlights of the day for your Shedadamus. The first was getting a hat given to me by Jakaya Whitfield after the Jillaroos put their spanking on the English girls. I actually stood up and kind of waved at her, and she pointed at me and tried to throw me a Jillaroos hat, which came nowhere close to me. But here's the cool thing what Jakaya did. She made the person that the hat fell to make sure she got it up to me, and she didn't take her eyes off of the person until they got the hat up to me, which was really beyond cool. Because how many times do you see a player throw something in the crowd at somebody who even they meant to throw it to, but easily get distracted and moved on to the next thing? That was not what she did at all. She made sure I got the hat. So that was really nice of her and really cool. And then I'm going to stop and pause for effect, Shedheads. Marquee match, Panthers Sharks, 27th minute, first half, penalty, Braden Trindle kicks for touch, and guess who he kicks the ball right to? That's right, your Shedadamus. And if you watch it, I think it's like 27 minutes, 33 seconds. If you watch a replay of the match, Trindle put it on a line to me. And for some reason, I sensed it. I took my phone, and I didn't even look at Mrs. Shedadamus. I said, hold my phone. And it came right to me. I didn't have to take a step left or right. I just had to not be the fool who dropped it. Mrs. Shedadamus thought that I was going to break the ball because I grabbed it so tight when it hit me. But your Shedda pulled in a perfect catch from Braden Trindle's kick to touch. And I got to admit, I felt like a 12-year-old kid in the crowd when I caught that ball. It was actually match ball 46 of 60 that I caught. And it is going to get a frame. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It's getting a frame in the castle of Shedadamus. I don't know where I'm going to put it. And I can already feel the eyes of Mrs. Shedadamus looking at me of where I'm going to put this ball. But this ball is getting the royal treatment and getting put into a beautiful case sooner rather than later. But besides that, it was just an incredible day all the way around. The UK boys, the Super League guys were in full throat. The singing of it. I've heard that we're going down to 3 matches next year. And I think I can understand why. It's, unless you're just dialed into rugby league, it's a long, long day. It's a very, very long day. But it was a day that I very few people will forget if you were in the crowd. And again, the NRL, Super League, the Jillaroos, the English girls, incredible performance everybody put on. It was something that I will not forget for a very, very long time. Incredibly, incredibly well done. So Sunday started out really well. Wanted to get my pump in, wanted to get to the gym. Got down there on the way to the gym, bumped into Cam McInnes, captain of the Cronulla Sharks. Talked to him. He was a little disappointed on the performance and how the game ended. But I will say something. Cam, be happy, because I will say one of the biggest accomplishments of the game, Cam McInnes actually finished a rugby league match without getting a zipper added to his face. No stitches on Cam McInnes. Cam looked good. He didn't look happy, but he looked good. Was a really friendly guy. And it was good to really touch base with him, to talk to him about the game, talk to him about being an American supporter, talking about the podcast and all. But that was really cool. Got my workout in, got back to the room, and I was on Andrew Voss's morning show in Australia for about 10 minutes. They did an incredible job talking about my podcast. I got to show them that I knew my stuff. Got to show them that this Yank, this Shedadamus knows what he's talking about. And that's what we did. We were on the show. It was really cool. I've actually got it downloaded now. But I guess I'm in the last 20 minutes of that show, if you find, because I guess the morning show gets actually put on a podcast afterwards. So the last 20 minutes of that show on Sunday our time, Monday Australia time, if you want to look at that and listen to your Shedadamus go international, you can do that. But after that, Mrs. Shedadamus and I got a little bite to eat, and then we went to go see my New Jersey Devils take on the Vegas Golden Knights. It was my first time being in the T-Mobile Arena, state of the arts. I would say half the fans almost in there felt like they were either from Australia or New Zealand. It was quite crazy to see how many internationals were inside that building for that match. My Devils laid an egg, lost 2-0, and our best player went down with a season-ending shoulder injury. But it was really cool to be inside that stadium and just to watch and put a capper on an incredible week. I will tell you, Shedheads, I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. Even if your team does not go to Vegas next year, you cannot miss this chance to see it. You've got 3 more years guaranteed, right? It's a 5-year contract. You've got 3 more years to get over here to see rugby league in Vegas. It is a top-notch performance. I will say it. I'll use it again. It's top flight all the way around. I enjoyed it. The cool thing is Mrs. Shedadamus, we've talked about Mrs. Shedda quite a bit. And she's not the greatest fan of anything. And she keeps up with everything because of me. But she really enjoys just the experience, meeting people, getting in there, rubbing elbows, seeing the team, seeing the players. And now, the guys are good-looking guys. They're all, 4% body fat or whatever. So I know she has a good time with that as well. But it was a great experience. Now, when I want to do a little bit of follow-up with you guys, too, about this. But again, like I said, It looks like we're going to be down to 3 games next year. I just think that it's really, really tough for the ladies to actually play a game so far out of their season. And, I've heard that they only had a week or two to prepare the Jillaroos because they didn't even get to a camp to go to. So they actually got in there, and the way they looked without having a full camp was quite impressive. But it looks like we're going to be down to 3 matches. So far, I've heard that I guess the leading teams in the sheds right now are the Canterbury Bulldogs and the St. George Illawarra Dragons. But it looks like Newcastle is putting a huge package together, trying to get Volandis and Abdow to actually pick them to be one of the 4 teams for next year. But they're putting in a strong bid. So who knows who it's going to actually officially be. But like I said, what I've heard is that the Dogs and the Dragons are right now, it looks like they're in close to nailing it down for next season. And that'll be cool to see. That's a good fan base, and I wouldn't mind seeing those 2 teams actually take on each other next year in Vegas. Now, as we go into the 40-20, we're doing it abbreviated because we don't have as much to talk about. Next week, we're going to go into a little bit of breakdown of some of the player movement that actually transpired during this offseason and where some players are. But I'm going to give you who I think is going to finish in my top 8. I'm not going to actually do it in the exact order, but here are the 8 teams I think are going to make the 8 for next season. Once again, we're going to go right out of the blocks. We're going to go with the Panthers. We're going to go with the Storm. We're going to go with the Dogs. We're going to go with the Shockies. We're going to go with the Broncos, even though I think they're going to really falter late in the season just because of their legs. We're going to go with the Finns. We're going to go with the Dolphins. We're going to go with the Dragons. And then you go down to the last 8, because to me it was a toss-up. But I went with my Smoky. I do think the Tigers are going to be a team on the bolter. I think they're going to be close to pushing for the 8. But I, for some reason, think that it's not going to be the Cows. It's not going to be the Tigers. I think that the Raiders are going to sneak in there. Now, the great thing about rugby league is we could say all of these teams right now, but if 1 or 2 key injuries happens, this is all up in the air. There's no guarantee where all this falls. But right now, with healthy teams, that's who my top 8 is going to be. And like I said, that is not in any type of particular order that they're going to finish. But I do think probably Penrith and the Storm will probably be in 1 and 2 when it's all said and done. Now let's go into some picks for round 1, part 2. And it starts off in a matter of hours with the Broncos taking on the Roosters. I said that the Bronx legs were going to be tired later in the season, but I think they're going to be a dangerous team to start the season. I've got the Broncos on top of the Chookies to start out, week 1, part 2. Friday, we've got the Knights versus the Tigers. The Luai era begins in Balmain for the Tigers, and I'm going to take the Tigers to get that first victory behind Galvan and Luai and the Habs. I just think the Tigers are going to be a totally different team this year. I don't think they're going to make it to 8. Love if they would. I would be happy to be wrong about that. But I've got them winning round 1 over the Knights. Next match. The match that some people are calling for to be, postponed. And that is the Dolphins versus the Rabbitohs. This match was supposed to take place up in Queensland, but has been moved to Sydney because of Cyclone Alfred, which is knocking on the door for the Brisbane Suncoast area right now. But I'm still going to take the Dolphins to win this. I just think that they're a better team than the Rabbitohs, and there's some key injuries. The Trell's out. There's some key pieces missing again for the Rabbitohs as well. So I'm going to take the Dolphins. I'm going to take them to get the victory. Even though I've heard that I think at this current moment, there's 5 players that didn't make the trip down to Sydney with the team. But I think the Christian Wolf era is going to start off with a victory. I got the Finns winning over the Rabbitohs. Saturday, this is the match. This might be the match I'm most looking forward to in the round. Bulldogs versus the Dragons. I'm going to say the Dogs are going to probably finish higher than the Dragons by the end of the season, but I'm taking the Dragons over the Dogs on Saturday. I just really think that the Dragons are going to be a really good team this year. I really do. And I've got them winning their first round match against the Dogs. Next up, Cowboys versus the Seagulls. And I'm going to go for the upset there. I know a lot of people think that the Seagulls playing at Four Pines, which I hate calling it that, but that's something else. I'm going to take the Cows to get the upset there. I think that the Cowboys have a lot to prove this year, especially after how they really were so up and down all through last year. I think Dearden's going to have those boys ready to go, and I think he's going to lead them around the park. And I've got the Cows beating the Seagulls. Sunday, the last match of the round, the Eels versus the Storm. I think a lot of things have changed when you heard that Mitchell Moses is out with that foot injury. It has not been reported how long he's going to be out. Some people are saying that Mitch is saying that he was close to being named in the side. But then some people are saying that if that was the case, they would just say out round one. And right now, it's undisclosed amount of time that Mitchell Moses is going to be out. That being said, Bellyache has never lost a round one game. And I don't think it's going to start with a team that's missing Mitchell Moses. I know Dylan Brown has a lot to prove to justify this 10-year contract that might be on the table for the Newcastle Knights. But I just think that the Storm have a point to prove. I think they're on a mission to get back to the grand final. And I would not be surprised if that score gets a tad bit ugly late. So we've got the Broncos, the Tigers, the Dolphins, the Dragons, the Cowboys, and the Storm rounding out the picks for round one, part two. Now, for our guns of the week, gosh, there's so many we could have gone with, especially, Jillaroos players. But we're going to go with our number one being Xavier Savage, the X-Man. 2 tries, 219 running meters, 1 line break, 7 tackle breaks, 6 tackles made, and 1 intercept that went all the way for a try. This guy is a special, special player. And again, another reason I've got the Baby Greens making it into the top 8 this year. My number 2 gun of the week, Tamika Upton. What a player. 5 tries. She had a hat trick before halftime. 200 running meters, 3 line breaks, 1 try assist, and 7 tackle breaks. She's a heck of a player. She's fun to watch, man. She's just always around the ball. But the thing about it is, you could have Taryn Aiken, Jess Surgis. So many of the girls, so many of the ladies had such a great match that you could have picked, a number of them. But I went with Tamika Upton because of the 5 tries and the hat trick in the first half. And then my number 3 gun, again, we could have gone with Yo or Cleary, but I went with Dane Laurie. He wasn't even supposed to be starting, but he came in, 2 tries, 155 running meters, 2 line breaks, 1 line break assist, 3 tackle breaks, and 6 tackles made for the man that makes the stash look like he came out of the womb with it, Dane Laurie. Now, Shedheads, I want to get serious here as I end out this week's podcast. I want to tell the people, some of the people I've met, stay safe, Queensland. I don't know how many times, I guess I've been to Australia 9 times now, 10 times. And I've always heard that Brisbane Vegas does not get hit with cyclones. And that does not look like it's the case. I don't want to say it's because of global warming. I don't want to say that it's just a bad luck of the draw. But it looks like in a matter of hours that Brisbane is getting ready, that Suncoast area is getting ready to get hit by a hurricane, which is crazy, cyclone, which is crazy to say. But please stay safe up there. Listen to your officials for what they say, what they tell you guys to do. It's a very, very dangerous. I think I saw a report that there's a possibility of 31 inches of rain because the storm is slowing down and could stay over the area for a while. But please stay safe up there in Queensland. in Bris Vegas in the Suncoast area. And I want to give a last shout out to my man Scotty. I promise you I will continue to work on my turkey calls. So just in case, if you ever hear me giving a distress signal, if I'm down in the Canberra area, be looking for my call, Scotty. And again, Adrian, thanks again for being a great agent. But, Shedheads, it's great to be back. Round 1, almost in the books. We've got the matches kicking off in a matter of hours. Hope you're ready for it. Again, if you get a chance, make it to Vegas next year. It's a special event. But again, like I always say to you, stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Try to be nice to somebody, because over here in the divided states, I don't really know if we can be that way. But until next week, see ya!
And that was another fantastic episode of Outside the Sheds with Corey Jackson, talking all things NRL and all things sports. So please remember to smash the subscribe button and share this with your family and friends and show them what Australian sport is all about.